Matt Ryan is gone. Calvin Ridley got banned for betting on games, but can Desmond Ridder, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts take over the league?
Now we go to Atlanta. The Atlanta Falcons. They finished last year 7-10, third in the division. Lost Matt Ryan via trade, obviously because they started talking to Sean Watson, and he didn't really appreciate that. Understandable. Sent him to the Indianapolis Colts. Lost edge rusher Dante Fowler. Tight end Hayden Hurst. Running back Mike Davis. Wide receiver Russell Gage, who went to the Bucs as we mentioned earlier. And then big loss was linebacker Foyesade Oluokun, who we both liked, and he went to Jacksonville. But they did add some pieces. Linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski, linebacker Rashawn Evans from the Titans, Arthur Smith from the Titans, so probably that's where that connection was. Cornerback Casey Hayward, quarterback Marcus Mariota, also from the Titans, tackle Jermaine Ifedi, and then the draft grabbed Drake London in the first round, edge rusher Arnold Ibikitai. My apologies, Arnold, if you're out there and I mispronounced your name. I probably did. And then quarterback Desmond Ridder they grabbed in the third round. So, John, we got a lot of criticism last year from a couple of people. They felt that we were too low on the Falcons. Maybe we're a touch low, but I think we had the right idea. Didn't make the playoffs. It was a little bit of transition year. No Calvin Ridley this year, obviously, because he was bent on games. So what are your expectations for Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons this year?
I think the Falcons could be worse than last year, just because Matt Ryan is gone. And although Matt Ryan did not have a great year, I'm not a Marcus Mariota believer. I don't know how long he'll remain the starting quarterback. Desmond Ridder was the second quarterback selected in the NFL draft. I'm not a big Desmond Ridder believer. So, maybe he'll surprise me. I would rather have him than Marcus Mariota out there because unfortunately for Mariota, we've already kind of seen what he can do. I think he's a better athlete than he is a thrower. And I think that Desmond Ridder, at least he has the potential to be something that we haven't seen. So we'll see how long Mariota remains the QB. I think for sure he'll stay the QB early on because Ridder is still a pretty raw prospect. It wasn't like he was a first round pick by any means. So I don't expect him to push Mariota for that job instantly. But I just don't think that Mariota is necessarily good enough to warrant, you giving him the full year. But at the same time, I don't think the Falcons have the expectations that would warrant Ridder needing to come in as soon as possible because they're not like the Titans, for example, to where if Ryan Tannehill started off terribly, they lost 4 straight games, then maybe you start to think, should we change things up because we were a playoff team last year, the number 1 seed. The Falcons don't have those sort of expectations. So if they're still bad, I don't think that would change much in terms of who the starting quarterback is. But like I said, I do think that Desmond Ridder will start at some point. Overall, they lost a lot of key pieces. Hayden Hurst was a really solid tight end for them, but it doesn't matter that much because Kyle Pitts is going to be the guy. But Oluokun at linebacker, Russell Gage was a very solid contributor at receiver. Dante Fowler was a good edge rusher for them, and obviously Matt Ryan had been there for a long time. And I like some of the additions they got. Rashawn Evans, I think that's kind of an underrated one. He was really solid for the Titans while he was there. You got Casey Hayward, who's at the tail end of his career, but he was a very, very good corner even last year with the Raiders. He was a little bit underrated, I think, but he is still a really solid contributor. But overall, I don't really have high expectations for them, so it's a little tough to grade how I think that these pieces are going to fit in because I don't think this is a playoff team. Obviously, they're still behind the Buccaneers, who are the best team in the division. I think they're still behind the Saints. It's debatable if they're behind the Panthers because the Panthers are just in a different situation right now. And we'll talk about them in a little bit. But overall, the Falcons, I think this is just a rebuilding year. You get a high first-round pick. You get to draft Drake London. Wasn't super high on Drake London, but we'll see if he pans out because a lot of other people were. So maybe I'm just wrong on him. And he's a big body player. He's got the ability to make contested catches, so he can absolutely make an impact in year 1 and make life easier on Marcus Mariota. And he won't have to deal with he'll have to deal with the number 1 corner, but he won't have to deal with the defense's full attention because Kyle Pitts is going to be the focal point of that offense. And then they have that sort of unique backfield of Mariota with his ability to run, and then Cordell Patterson with his ability to catch at running back. So they could just do a lot of really creative things. So we'll see what Arthur Smith is able to do with some of these weapons. But overall, like I said, I just don't think this is a playoff team. And in large part, that's because I don't really like a lot of what they have on defense outside of the usual guys like AJ Terrell, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett. I think Rashawn Evans is a good piece. Casey Hayward's a good piece. I liked Richie Grant from last year, so maybe they could be better this year. But I don't think this defense is a team or is a unit that's going to move the needle for them enough to overcome the quarterback play, the lack of weapons they have on offense.
Yeah, I fully expect them. I mean, unless maybe they're going to develop Desmond Ritter more. I mean, but like you kind of alluded to, I expect Desmond Ritter to be in at some point later this season. You already mentioned it, but yeah, like offensive line's not great, and Drake London's already dealing with an injury, I believe. So who knows? You know, he may not be. They may kind of hold him back at the beginning of the season too. And then yeah, you already mentioned defense. I mean, you really hit all the points. I really don't have anything else to add in terms of the Falcons. I think they'll be the worst team in this division. We'll talk about the Panthers in a second. And that's I know we said that last year, and technically I was wrong. But, I mean, it's not like you're much better than the Panthers anyway. And, yeah, losing Matt Ryan is huge because he probably won you a couple of games just because of his veteran presence. And then also, like we mentioned, no Calvin Ridley at all. So, I mean, even if Drake London does really well, if teams start game planning for him and Kyle Pitts, like who else? I'm not really sure anyone behind them I have much confidence in to make a difference anyway. And then, yeah, we've already kind of seen Marcus Mariota, like you mentioned. I think he'll be solid at best, but he's one of those guys that referred to as more of an athlete than a quarterback. You know, he can be really consistent with his throwing, and kind of same with Desmond Ritter. I felt was coming out the draft. Now, granted, he's still young. He's younger. I think he's definitely got a more powerful arm. He just needs to clean up things. Judging from the first preseason game, he's made progress, but I wouldn't say he's ready to light the world on fire just yet in terms of his throwing ability. So I think he's still a work in progress. But nonetheless, we'll see what happens with the Falcons. Maybe they'll prove us wrong. But regardless, we'll see if we draw out the same Falcon believers as last year.